I'd like to now welcome to the podcast the man who scared the shit out of us as children as Papa Shango, who made us feel us all like pussies as Coma, who made us want pussy as the Godfather, and then the guy who made us feel guilty about that last one as the Godfather, legendary Hall of Famer Charles Wright. Mr. Wright, how are you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
I'm just trying not to annoy you in any way and take an even worse beating than I probably already deserve.
I'm glad to be on your show, man. What time is it there right now?
It's just 1 minute to 9, or as we like to call it, beer o'clock.
Okay, I like that, man. That's early. Well, it's just early afternoon here, so we're all on the same page. What's going on, bro?
Well, the first question I've got for you is kind of about some of that lovely stuff. I'm always of the opinion that it doesn't need tobacco. Some people say you can't smoke weed without it. So what's the Godfather's opinion on tobacco, weed, or without?
I'm going back to maybe 93, 94. And every time I go to Europe, every time I go to Canada, back then back in the early 90s, there wasn't a lot of green. It was all hash. Everything was hash. They did have a little bit of flour, but it was mostly hash. But the people in Canada and Europe, the people always put tobacco in the weed. I can't stand it. It's a waste of good weed. Why would you put tobacco in weed? Then you might as well just smoke shitty-ass, dirt-ass weed if you're going to mix it with shitty-ass tobacco. But, dude, no, I'm a firm believer that weed should be smoked by itself. If I know a lot of people like the blunts, and I used to do the blunts, but to these days I vaporize, I smoke joints, I do bong hits. I'm a big dabber too, but never mix it. No, that's a no. That's a God no. Nine never cigarettes, man. No. Did that answer it?
Oh, yeah, pretty much. But that's like, there's a thing over here where I always say to the bar staff, don't put ice in the drink. Frost the glass, because why would I put water in the booze?
You know what? You're onto something there. And when back in the day when we used to, like me and Taker used to do our Jack Daniels straight up anyway. But you know what? I used to tell people, don't put a lot of ice in there, man. I want to taste the alcohol. I don't want it watered down. So that's something that us here in America do wrong, putting all that ice. You shouldn't put no ice in the drink, man. Just maybe a cube or two.
Well, I know that I'm hiding it very well, but I'm a complete nerdy wrestling mark. I know it's shocking you to hear that news, but I've got to ask you a few wrestling questions, because for your era, that was the era that I was like, hook this up to my veins. I can't get enough of it. But I've got to ask you, do you ever find it strange how a lot of your gimmicks were way, way ahead of their time? Like, if you look at the Right to Censor, if they were alive, if they were active today, they would be so politically current. Like, the Right to Censor is real, and they're out rioting right now.
But let me ask you something, just to go off of that. Just imagine if you were doing the Nation of Domination right now.
Oh, but the thing is,
which one? Let me ask you a question. Which one would be babyface? RTC or the Nation of Domination, or both?
That would be the storyline.
Wouldn't it?
The Nation versus oh Jesus, that's good stuff.
I just thought about that right now. Wouldn't that be crazy?
But
you know what, bro? They hated us so. They hated until The Rock really started becoming The Rock. They hated us. You would not believe the names that we were being called. And to go out, it's so different now. But I bet you if you went out there now, you'd be cheered. You'd be over.
But that's the thing is, because I work for the Conan and Disco Inferno podcast, Keeping It 100.
Okay.
So I'm always dealing with marks, and everybody says that the Nation needs to be celebrated more. And just the problem is that guy, Dwayne, I don't know his surname, he really went on to do nothing and kind of tarnished the whole brand.
It makes it hard because I think sooner or later they'll put the Nation into the Hall of Fame. I don't know how they'll do it with The Rock, but yeah, I mean, um, it's hard. It's hard to probably, it's going to be hard for them just to put The Rock in the Hall of Fame. It's probably going to cost them a lot of money.
Yeah, but I don't think he deserves it just for Baywatch alone.
Good dude, man. I have nothing but good, besides the fact that he never put me in a movie, but that's okay. But dude, great guy. I rode around with him for a while. You know what? True story. Rock, as far as I know, he doesn't smoke. As far as I've never seen him smoke. He's been around me a lot. I've never seen him smoke. So we used to ride, me, him, D'Lo, and Ron Simmons used to ride in the car together because we were keeping it real. That way we could all show up together. And I always blazed the green, right? And so one day Rocky came to me. He goes, "Hey, Godfather, man, I got to stop riding with you. I can't ride with you no more." I'm like, "Well, why can't you ride with me?" He goes, "Bro, every time I go someplace, I smell like weed." He goes, "I don't even smoke weed." And I'm like, "Well, shit, I ain't going to stop smoking weed, so get the fuck out." So him and D'Lo started riding together, and me and Ron Simmons rode together. True story, though. But great guy, man. Great guy. I got nothing but good to say about him.
Jesus, I couldn't even imagine being backstage back in those days because anyone in the Nation could rip my fucking head off in maybe a quarter of a second. Whereas wrestlers today, I think I could take at least one of the Young Bucks.
I'm not here to take shots at wrestling, but you know, I'm not even going to mention names, but I was in the elevator one time at a WWE with one of the WrestleManias, and I'm like, "Ron, who's this dude here?" And he goes, "He's their champion." I'm like, "Dude, I thought the dude worked in like the elevator." But different time, man. I guess the monsters are obsolete now because now it's kind of like how many flips you can do and how many leg slaps and all that type of stuff. But hey, I ain't mad at nobody, bro. Everything changes. People hated me when I came in as Papa Shango. You wouldn't imagine how some old timers hated on me. I didn't give a fuck, but when I came in, I was gonna ruin the business, and it was the Papa Shango gimmick. So I ain't gonna be one of them old dudes that it is what it is. God bless them dudes. I couldn't do none of the shit that those guys are doing. I couldn't do one of them. So
Well, one of the gimmicks you had that I, as a kid, marked the fuck out for, because this was back when I was still really into the kayfabe side, was Coma, the Ultimate Fighting Machine.
Right.
But is that one of the things a lot like Right to Censor and the Nation? If that was the UFC gimmick before Brock Lesnar, before all this shit really took off. So, talk to me about when you came in as Coma. What did they?
I was wrestling. See, a lot of people don't realize wrestling. I always had the strip clubs. I always had part of the strip clubs in Vegas. So wrestling was always my second job, not my first. So I made good money in wrestling. I made good money at the strip clubs, and so wrestling for me was a way to go out just because I was just a crazy son of a bitch, man. It was just a way for me to be crazy and get paid for it. And so I was sitting at home, and Taker was calling me, saying, "Hey, man, you ready to come back?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm kind of chilling now, man. I don't really want to come back." And they're like, "Well, you've been watching this UFC?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, there's this guy named Chemo, and he's got tattoos, and he's kind of, and Vince wants to do a thing where we kind of take off of that and call you Coma, which stands for kick any man's ass." And I'm like, "Nah, not really, dude." I'm like, because I dabble. I ain't no professional, but I dabbled with this and that. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that shit, man. And then he goes, "They're gonna let you ride a Harley to the ring." And I'm like, "I'm in. I'm in there. They let me ride a Harley. I'm in." That's how it went down. That's how Coma started. It was the Harley, and the Harley didn't go over well because we were having hard times at all the buildings. You'd ask for a big hog, and they'd bring you a little Sportster girl bike and stuff, so it wasn't working. And then later, Vince purchased part of Titan, and then they had their own motorcycles.
Well, big hogs isn't something I know about because I'm Irish. But I gotta ask you,
what the fuck does that mean?
I don't like to be naked. It's disgusting. But of course, you mentioned the Undertaker there. He's another very up and coming guy that I think has a lot of potential. That's my wrestling expertise. But just recently on the WWE Network, he started this documentary series where he's completely what's his name, Mark Callaway or Callaway or something.
Callaway.
Yeah. What was your reaction to seeing that this guy who for so long was so kayfabe is now breaking going human?
Brother, I met him in 1988. We met each other. We worked together for a minute, and they tagged us up. We were a tag team called Death Express. This is like '89. That's how far we go back. To me, he's the dude that you're seeing on these whatever they're called, life stories or whatever they're called. They're called what's it called? What's the series called?
Documentary.
Yeah. There's that's just him. That's how I know him. So it's just him being. It's about time you got to know him. I know he's taking a lot of heat right now about the shirt that he wore, but the last documentary is pretty cool. I don't know if they've showed it yet, but it's a story he tells about me and him, and a story of us drinking and having a little wild party one night in a room, and actually fighting over a hat, having doors thrown out of hotel rooms and doors ripped off of hinges. So I don't know if that showed yet, but you got to check that out if it hasn't yet.
I can't get enough of that shit because anything from that era, whether it's matches or stories or pranks or ribs, that's the shit that I'm all into. But just to prove my markiness, I remember watching Raw one day, and it was when the Nation was rebooted, and it was you, Farouk, D'Lo Brown, and Ahmed Johnson, and then he get injured, and The Rock came in, and it was fucking amazing because you guys look so fucking tough, and like it was real. It's like, don't fuck with Ron Simmons because we seen him beat Vader back in WCW, and everybody hated Vader. So when you came back in that faction, what did Vince say to you? He's like, well, here's the plans for the Nation here, pal.
I wasn't even supposed to be Nation. I had come back to TV, and I was going to be Papa Shango. It was going to be a new, more not so cartoonish Jerry Lawler. There's pictures of it on the internet. Jerry Lawler had painted my face, and I was coming out as Papa Shango that night. As I got to TV, they're like, Charles, Vince wants to talk to you. I'm like, really? Okay, cool. So I go there and talk to Vince, and Vince is like, Charles, change of plans. And I'm like, change of plans? He goes, you're not going to be Papa Shango tonight. He goes, we're going to call you Kama Mustafa. We're going to put you in the Nation. You and Ron Simmons are going to have a handicap match against The Undertaker, and you're going to go over in the middle. And that's how I was put into the Nation. That night, that day, that match. And then they came to me and Ron, and they said, Vince actually came to me and Ron, and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you guys. He's like, you know this guy, Dwayne Johnson? I didn't know who he was. Rock's like, yeah. Ron's like, yeah, I know. And I got Ron's voice down. And so he goes, well, listen, I'm going to put him in the Nation. And he basically, said, once I get people to hate this kid, when I turn him, he's going to be the biggest thing that wrestling's ever seen. And that's what Vince told me and Ron. And we're like, cool, let's do it. And that's how that happened.
What was it like though when you seen the gimmick taken off? Because like the Nation, because one of I think it's a shame that they had the Nation on DX at the same time because they were both so fucking cool.
I think the Nation was probably one of the realest, toughest group of guys that you kind of put together that could have handled themselves. Everybody had careers after it. But you know what? Doing it back then, it was just what you did. It was a job. And you didn't know the significance and how big it would be later until now you look back and you see the videos and you see what you're doing. And you're like, oh, wow, that was pretty big. But back then, we're just doing our thing, man. It was, at least in my case, I might have to do something when I was high all the time. But in my case, it was just that mean, that's really me. And two things changed that mean person. my two girls, my wife and marijuana. And those two things created the Godfather. My wife is who created the Godfather, not me, it's my wife. And I went from being it was easy being that neat person, because that's how I really was. At that time, that's how I was. I mean, that's how I really was. I wasn't a black militant, but I was ready to fight, drinking, fighting, ready to go some good.
Well, trust me, I still wouldn't fuck with you ever.
Ah, shit. I'd smoke with you, man.
I'm coming to Las Vegas.
All right, let me ask you a question. Are you a big smoker?
I was, but I don't think I've had anything in 2020 because it's not legal over here, so you have to know someone.
Yeah, right. It's legal here.
Yeah, fuck, I'm coming to Las Vegas.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you want to start off a little slower before you reach up to me, because I'm the real deal.
Yeah. But I gotta ask you a question. One of my favorite behind the scenes rumors, dramas, all that Mark shit. Of course, you worked a lot with The Rock. The rumor I read online, and you hear all this shit from shoots, is that he had backstage issues with Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. Can you give any information at all about their so-called hate?
I never seen any of that. I mean, everybody was always business. If there was heat there, I didn't know about it. It wasn't something I was aware of. I didn't see nobody having heat with The Rock. The Rock was cool, man. Shawn's cool. It's all business, and even if you don't like a motherfucker, you still work. I don't know what it's like now, but back then, if you liked somebody or not, it didn't matter. You still had to work with them, but there was no issues like that. Like there's a group called BSK that Undertaker and Yoko were kind of, and I'm in that group, and then there was the Clique, and people have us having this big rivalry, and it wasn't there, man. They were just, it just, I don't know that all rumors. I don't know no truth in any of that.
Do you think there'll ever be a documentary made about the BSK the way there was?
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. Oh yeah. They were doing one, I think, this year at WrestleMania, and then it was canceled. But they were doing something on BSK right then, because I had, I think, 5 vignettes to do over it. So they were doing something then. I don't know if they're going back to it, but they were doing something at that point.
See, this is why you're so popular with fans, is because you've got all these amazing connections to people and stories, but you're down to earth, even though you could fucking kill all of us.
The two girls, marijuana and fucking weed, bro.
But I gotta ask you as well the question. Of course, you're in the Hall of Fame as the Godfather, and well deserved. I personally thought you should have gone in as Charles Wright, because you've had all these different characters. But what's your take on wrestlers who trash the Hall of Fame and say, "Oh, it's not real, it's not any of that shit"? But I think that even though it might not be an actual hall, it's still celebrating someone's career. So, what's your take on the negative wrestlers?
Most guys don't really care what people. I don't really care what nobody says, if they think I deserve it or not. Bottom line, Vince thought I did. I know that I personally made that company a lot of money. It's a lot of my characters, and to this day, are still making that company money. And thank God, I love they still take care of me. But for me, I mean, it's like acting. It's a work, so it's a work hall, but they're still acknowledging the job that you did. And so, I think it's a cool thing. I took it as an honor. I never thought I'd be in there. I thought they'd have to make a special category for a pimp, because, dude, and who thought they'd put a pimp in the hall? But I got a hell of a body of work, and I've been involved with everything from the Ultimate Warrior, making him puke, which people still to this day talk about, to the Nation of Domination, to the Bam Bam Bigelow. Remember the football player thing at WrestleMania, being part of the Money Corporation, being the Godfather, being in the start of The Rock, being part of the Nation, the RTC. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of memorable things that are still people are talking about.
Yeah, no, you definitely deserved it. And I think anyone that criticizes the Hall of Fame, fuck them.
Fuck, exactly. Fuck them. Who gives a fuck? They ain't in.
I just got one more question here for you, and this is kind of a serious one. So, and you don't have to name names or anything, but we live in a very, very politically correct culture these days, especially in America, and it's all about fuck prejudice and bigotry and all this stuff. And I was wondering, have you ever personally felt or witnessed racism within the wrestling industry?
Personally, I haven't. No.
Yeah, nobody in their right mind would say anything.
I always talk about just me, not other people, just me. When I broke into the business, there weren't a lot of people of color or black guys. There weren't really many of them into it or trying, so it was a lot easier for me. So being black probably helped me get into the business because there was fewer black guys than white guys. But no, I was never asked to do something I didn't want to. No, I mean, I've only worked for WWF for big organizations, but no, I've never seen any. Not for me.
Yeah, good, because it's just such a crazy fucking world to be living in, and
hey, everybody's got a different story. That's just mine, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, listen, Mr. Wright, I just want to thank you so much for your time. But before I let you go, can I ask one favor from you?
If I can.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I work for the Conan Disco Inferno podcast.
Okay.
Disco's let me interview him twice. Conan refuses to do it just out of complete spite. So whenever I have someone from the wrestling industry or frankly anyone on, I ask them, if possible, if they can record a request/threat to get Conan to do this podcast. Would you mind?
Okay. Sure. You got to also tag, let everybody know they got to follow me on Instagram. I am the Godfather, verified with the little blue check mark. You got to see what I'm doing these days. And if you're a smoker, you get to just kind of see all the crazy, silly stuff I do. But it's fun. You just see I'm having fun. So now what do we want to do? We want to threaten Conan about doing the podcast?
Oh, as hard as possible.
Okay. You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right, Conan, what's going on, man? You don't want to do a podcast? Come on, man. You need to get out there for the people. Man, they want to hear what you got to say. Come on, brother. Do the podcast. If I do it, you can do it. Come on, man. Don't let us down.
Listen, Mr. Wright, I want to thank you so much for your time. You're a fucking legend, and I can't wait till this COVID's over so everybody can be getting high.
I love it. That's what everybody needs to do. There'd be less problems.
Listen, you have a great day and take care.
Peace, my brother.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. Peace.